The historic ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas after 15 months of war. Celebrations breaking out across Israel and the Gaza Strip as word spread of the deal. Hamas set to release 33 hostages, including some of the Americans still being held. Top White House national security spokesman John Kirby, you see there, he's standing by. Chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is in Tel Aviv with the latest. And Ian, as the world watches closely, waiting for the deal to go into effect, Israel is saying there's a possible last-minute snag. What can you share with us? Good morning.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, good morning, Robin. Concerns now, certainly here in hostage squares, where the families of those taken back on October 7th, 2023 gather, that perhaps this deal isn't as done as everyone thought just 24 hours ago. Reminder of where this started, 467 days ago. These are the faces of those who were kidnapped, taken by Hamas into Gaza, many of them killed, some have been returned, but of course everyone waiting for more to be returned. But now the Netanyahu government is accusing Hamas of reneging on the deal. They were supposed to have met already this morning. The Security Cabinet should have ratified the deal, but that hasn't happened, raising questions about what happens next. For their part, Hamas is saying the deal is still on. This morning, celebrations on the streets of Gaza and mixed emotions in Israel after that breakthrough ceasefire and hostage agreement. Gazans rejoicing at the prospect of reprieve from a brutal war that's decimated much of the Gazan landscape, killing more than 46,000 Palestinians. Israelis also relieved, but many reluctant to trust Netanyahu's government after so many false dawns. And this morning, Prime Minister Netanyahu delaying cabinet approval, accusing Hamas of reneging on part of the agreement. But for its part, Hamas saying it remains committed to the deal. Both President Biden and President-elect Trump claiming credit for the deal. But in his farewell address last night, President Biden touting cooperation to get it across the finish line.
This plan was developed and negotiated by my team and will be largely implemented by the incoming administration. That's why I told my team to keep the incoming administration fully informed, because that's how it should be, working together as Americans.
The deal in 3 phases. The first set to begin this Sunday, lasting 42 days and including the release of 33 hostages, starting with women, children and the elderly. It's expected to include 2 of the 7 Americans captured and believed to still be alive. Sagi Dekelchen, who was injured, the father of 3, could be meeting his youngest daughter for the first time. She was born 2 months after he was taken. And Keith Siegel, who was taken from Kibbutz Kfar Aza. We spoke to his brother Lee this morning.
I can't allow myself to raise expectations until I'm giving Keith a hug. An agreement is fine. We need an agreement. Apparently we need phases. It will take time. I understand that. But until Keith has been delivered to Israel, I have to keep my expectations real.
In exchange for the hostages, hundreds of Palestinian prisoners will also be freed. Israeli forces will pull back and more desperately needed aid will flow into Gaza. Negotiations for the rest of the deal will also begin during phase 1, which, if successful, could mean the end of a long and devastating war beginning 15 months ago when Hamas invaded southern Israel and massacred 1,200 Israelis and others and took more than 250 hostages into the Gaza Strip. Well, despite all the hopes for peace, the bombing and the killing continues. Since that ceasefire was announced only yesterday, more than 70 Palestinians have been killed in strikes across Gaza. And there are fears that could escalate in the final few days. I think it's hoped by a lot of people here, George, that the latest objections from Netanyahu's government aren't enough to scupper this deal. But if it isn't approved by the Security Cabinet today, then there is a risk that that Sunday, the 19th of January start date for a ceasefire, the return of the hostages that everyone here is praying for, could be delayed.